Trouble on the tracks, how a man in a wheelchair narrowly escaped death.
Plus, treading lightly. It's supposed to be land for a new park, but what developers found underneath the soil is raising eyebrows.
Also waiting for funds, an expensive city building that's going to cost even more to fix. Why it's taken so long to repair that messy situation. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to KRQE News 13 this morning. It's 6 a.m. I'm Adam Atchison.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Krista Gutierrez. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday, April 23rd. We'll get to those stories in just a moment. But first, have you felt it? I sure have. Allergies.
I know, mine aren't so bad. I know you're suffering.
I am suffering lately.
And I feel for you.
And they're making fun of me every single morning.
Not every day, just every now and then. Kristen Curry has a look at what is she going to be in a bad situation today, too?
Unfortunately, yeah. Good thing allergies aren't contagious, because you, my friend, would be toxic.
I know, me too.
Because you've been fighting these for a while. Allergy report, ash up to medium, and especially mulberry. We've been fighting this for the last couple of days, now up to high, everything else at low for today. Temperatures this morning in the 20s and 30s to the north, 50s here in the Albuquerque metro area, low 50s, but it still counts in the 40s and 50s scattered across the south. 3-day forecast shows another day in the 70s today, but rain chances starting to pick up a little bit. We have a shot at an isolated storm today, better chances to the north and west, but it really starts to kick into gear Friday and again on Sunday. So we have a lot to talk about in the way of the changes in the forecast. I'll tell you what you need to know coming up.
Oh, we do need that rain. Hopefully it does not rain around one community center in Albuquerque. If it does, it could be a mess. We've learned the city has yet to fix a big problem that we told you about months ago. It's been 4 months since we first brought you the story about the city's $7.5 million building with a big problem, that leaking roof. Now, since then, there's been snow, even rain, but News 13 uncovered the city still has not fixed the roof at the Manzano Mesa Multi-Generational Center. Emails obtained by News 13 show the division manager got quotes for the roof back in November, but just placed a request for funding last week. So why the delay?
Again, it's part of being fiscally responsible to ensure that we have gotten everything covered in the bids.
So the division manager says that $500,000 roof replacement project should start in May and last about 3 months, just in time for monsoon season. We posted those 200 city emails on our website for you. Just go to krqe.com.
Right now, coaches for a high school baseball team have been suspended for what they did on a school-sponsored trip. The superintendent of Los Lunas Schools tells News 13 the Los Lunas high school baseball coaches were drinking while they were out of town for a game. She wouldn't say when or where it happened or how many coaches were involved, but she did say the students were in their rooms and were not drinking.
We turn out to this morning. We know a little more about that Comcast visit that one Albuquerque homeowner thought was suspicious. Pamela Britton let a man wearing a Comcast shirt into her Albuquerque home after he offered to check her service. She says he was only given access to her Wi-Fi network, but after he left, she says her computer was bombarded with malware. Fearing he was a fake, she contacted Comcast. Comcast now tells us it was one of their people doing sales in the area, but they denied causing any problems there. On to this, the career criminal who's suing APD for police brutality is set to be sentenced today. In October, Nicholas Bloom pled guilty to being a felon with a gun. He faces 10 years in federal prison. Bloom was arrested last year after a fight with his girlfriend. You may remember just a day before that arrest, he sued two APD cops who were caught on tape in 2011 hitting and kicking Bloom while he was down. The two officers were fired. They are now suing APD to get their jobs back because they claim they're trying to kick Bloom's arm out from under him to make sure he did not have a weapon.
Controversial, never before seen jail cell video of Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev was shown during the sentencing phase of his trial earlier this week. A lot of people are talking about this. You can see a still bandaged Tsarnaev 3 months after the bombings, and then just hours before his arraignment, he fixes his hair there and then makes a crude gesture to the camera. The same 12-member jury that convicted Tsarnaev on all 30 counts 2 weeks ago must now decide if he deserves life in prison or the death penalty. Yesterday, it was once again an emotional day of testimony from victims.
I thought that because I couldn't hear myself scream that I was dead. She thought I was dead, and I thought she was dead.
All 12 jurors must agree to send Tsarnaev to death row.
New details this morning. Investigators will start looking into how a wildfire sparked in the Santias. The fire that charred 5 acres in the Las Huertas Canyon is now fully contained. The cause, though, is still to be determined. And while firefighters were battling the destruction of wildland, others were restoring it yesterday. School volunteers used shovels to sing happy birthday to the earth yesterday. They were out at the Open Space Visitor Center planting trees. It may not look like much, but it plays a big part in the San Juan Chama Water Project, which brings drinking water to the metro. The Water Utility Authority sets aside money to revitalize the bosque. This year alone, volunteers added about 2,000 new plants, including cottonwoods and shrubs. A total of 40 acres had been restored just in the past 2 years. It's a great cause. So the city wants your take on how to transform a piece of Southwest Albuquerque land into a community park.
In fact, they're holding a public meeting today to get thoughts on the park's design, but there's also something lying beneath the Earth's surface that's going to make that design that much more important. And News 13's Catherine Mazzone has what you need to know. Catherine?
Good morning, Adam. The city is set to hear what residents think about this piece of land here in Southwest Albuquerque. The city tells me they must plan this park out very carefully because there are ancient artifacts buried there. Now, right now, it just looks like a mound of dirt in the center of this neighborhood. Anderson Heights Park sits here at Antler Tool Road. Officials with Parks and Rec tell me the developers found artifacts there, like pottery shards. They notified the state, who sent an archaeologist out to explore. Officials say the expert took samples and told the city the land needed to be preserved. But Parks and Rec says they can still turn the space into a park. They'll just have to do it very carefully. The city tells me they've come up with some ideas that will protect the artifacts while making this park a worthwhile place to pass time. That's coming up in our next half hour. Back to you.
Thanks, Catherine. The meeting is tonight at 6 at Atrisco Heritage High School.
This morning, you may want to take a look in your garage to see if you have a popular bike that's now being recalled because it could put kids in danger. Trek is recalling nearly 1 million bicycles because of a problem with the lever that could cause the front wheel to stop turning or separate from the bike frame altogether. One person was actually paralyzed because of this. For details on what to do if you have that bicycle or any of the bicycles, head to the KRQE News app.
Live look over our nation's capital this morning, where a House Oversight Committee is demanding answers after a major security breach last week. It happened after a man flew his gyrocopter through restricted airspace and then landed on the Capitol lawn. Following a closed-door briefing yesterday, Committee Chairman Jason Chavez says postal carrier Doug Hughes is lucky to be alive and should have been blown out of the air for that stunt. The House panel plans to hold a public hearing into the incident next week. Representatives from the FAA and NORAD are expected to testify. Meanwhile, Hughes remains on house arrest awaiting his trial. Demonstrators in Baltimore are calling for justice following the death of Freddie Gray.
You might remember the 25-year-old suffered a fatal spinal cord injury after his arrest a week ago. Protesters say they will take their case to Baltimore's mayor today with a rally at City Hall. 5 of the 6 officers involved have provided statements to investigators, but details are not yet known of what they said. Protesters believe the officers should be charged with Gray's death and plan to continue the march in his memory. On to this, happening today, lawyers for the parents of the black 18-year-old who was fatally shot by a white police officer in a St. Louis suburb say they plan to file a civil suit later today against the city of Ferguson. The lawsuit from the family of Michael Brown had been expected. Attorneys for Brown's mother and his father said in early March that a wrongful death suit would be filed. It appears it is coming today. And take a look at this. New video this morning shows a Metro Rail rider caught off guard. Oh my goodness, when his wheelchair rolls right off the railing and onto the tracks at the Washington Metro train.
It's unclear what caused that guy in the motorized wheelchair to actually drive off the Metro platform and onto the tracks, but it didn't take long for Good Samaritans to jump down on the tracks to rescue him. The man was not seriously injured.
Could you imagine just being there and seeing that happen?
No, it's a good thing that those people there were willing to go down and get him, because there's been incidents like this that haven't turned out so well.
It's a good thing they were there in the first place.
I know.
Out of line, a confrontation between a woman and a U.S. Marshal. Why she says he broke more than just her cell phone.
Plus, danger on the freeway after someone takes aim at several drivers on a busy local road, what they were firing and the damage they left behind.
And social media challenge fails. Why doctors are worried about a new dangerous trend among teens that's catching on right here in New Mexico. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to KRQE News 13 this morning. I'm Krista Gutierrez.
I'm Adam Atchison. Thursday, April 23rd. Day's top stories coming up here in just a moment. Why don't we look first at the morning forecast? We've been enjoying some really great temperatures the last couple days.
Absolutely, but changes are quickly coming. Here's Kristen Curry.
Good morning, guys. We'll start with a live look outside. Good morning, Red River ski area. Not a lot of snow left over at this point, but at least we're looking at a good amount of sunshine. So if we can't see the snow, we might as well get some nice weather out of today. As far as what we're looking at in the way of the setup, temperatures are actually starting to cool down a little bit. 70s here in the Duke City, falling a good 5 to 10 degrees by the time we hit tomorrow. But isolated showers still a possibility. Starting today, ramping up just a touch tomorrow. Even Saturday we have some rain chances in, and then the soggy finish to the week and a stronger system out of the west looks to move in late Saturday into Sunday. We could be looking at some significant rain chances by the time we hit Sunday afternoon. So a lot going on over the next 3 to 4 days, both with temperatures and rain chances. I'll be breaking down what you need to know in your neighborhood coming up here in about 10 minutes.
Thanks, Kristen. New and developing this morning, we just received an update to some overnight news. Deputies are investigating a deadly overnight crash near Coors and Gun Club. It happened just after midnight. Deputies just told us that a car going southbound was speeding when it crossed the center median, hitting a northbound vehicle and rolling several times. The driver of the rolled car died on scene. The other driver did receive some broken bones, but is expected to survive. Alcohol and speed are believed to be factors in that crash. The name of the driver has not been released. We will continue to monitor that situation and bring you the very latest on air, online today, and on our KRQE News app.
We turn out to this morning. You may want to talk to your teens about a new internet challenge that is sending some kids to the hospital. We've learned New Mexico teens are now jumping on that bandwagon. A warning, some of the results from this challenge are very graphic. Take a look at this. Videos like these are all over the internet and they're being shot all over the country. We've heard from local parents, teachers, even students. It is happening right here in Albuquerque. Teens are suctioning their lips with a shot glass or a bottle cap to make them look bigger, to make them look like reality star Kylie Jenner's. It's called the Kylie Jenner Challenge. But many are posting about the Kylie Jenner Challenge gone wrong. Listen.
It could pop your vessels all around and it's pretty horrible. I've seen some pretty bad pictures.
And that is why Savannah there says she will not be trying it. Not only do the pictures look bad, doctors say it can be very dangerous. It can cause bruising, scarring, or even disfigurement. If you were looking into this, you can find more information to warn your teens on our KRQE News app.
On to this is 6:33. 2 animal humane workers are warning about a paintball shooter on I-40. And News 13 has learned this is happening to other drivers as well.
Our drivers in the truck heard this pow, 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 scared them to death.
2 workers there were on I-40 near San Mateo when they say someone shot at them with paintballs. They posted about it all on Facebook, and other Albuquerque drivers commented with similar experiences. Albuquerque police say the paintball attacks on the highway may be a first, and whoever's doing it will face charges. Happening in just hours now, a woman accused of nearly stabbing her neighbor to death over a noise complaint could learn her fate in court today. Police say last year, Alyssa Romero and her boyfriend at the time, William Gallegos, stabbed her neighbor more than 20 times. They say the pair broke down the door, started stabbing her after she had complained about the two being too noisy. Her hearing is expected to begin at 2:30 today.
We're learning more about a car chase and crash that turned into a criminal investigation on Tuesday. State police now say the driver found dead in a car at the crash scene did die as a result of the crash after all. Now, yesterday, police thought Monica Poyopo of Isleta might have been dead before the collision on Highway 550 near 528 in Bernalillo. They say it started when they tried to pull over her son, Anthony Lucero, but he took off, crashed into cars, then a barrier. Police say he was drunk. He's now charged with vehicular homicide and DWI. We're following developing news this morning. Police are trying to figure out what led up to a man being stabbed before stumbling into traffic. Investigators say it happened last night near I-40 in Wyoming. The man was bleeding heavily. He was taken to the hospital for arm and neck injuries. He's still in critical condition at last check. This time, no one is in custody.
6:35 now happening now. This is just into our newsroom. A growing number of cities in New Mexico are urging Governor Susana Martinez to reach an agreement on a special session. That special session would be to consider funding more than $260 million in public improvement projects. The capital outlay bill stalled on the final day of the legislative session in March. Martinez's office says they are working with leaders from both sides of the aisle to find a solution. Farmington is the latest city to join the call for a special session. On to some good news for Lyft and Uber drivers and the people who use the ride booking companies. After months and months of back and forth, the state agency has approved new rules to allow both to operate in our state. They're different than the ones that traditional taxis have to follow. For example, Lyft and Uber drivers won't be drug tested. May not be able to tell by looking at it, but beneath a piece of city land lies an archaeological site.
Yeah, the space is supposed to be turned into a city park, but developers are going to have to be extra careful about how they go about doing that. Tonight, they're looking for public input on designs. News 13's Catherine Mazzone is in the Newsplex with the details on that. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Crystal. Parks and Recreation officials tell me they've put a lot of thought into design ideas and say they believe they can still make this area a worthwhile place to spend time. In fact, they say they're excited to share some unique ideas. Anderson Heights Park sits in the middle of this neighborhood in southwest Albuquerque. In order to preserve the history beneath this mound of dirt, the city says they'll have to go light on the grading, but they say they'll have some flexibility on the surface. They've described their vision as an oasis with lush grass and trees, plus a playground with shape structures, maybe some umbrellas. Parks and Rec officials say this will be a different type of development, but in a good way. Now, officials tell me the hidden treasures at this site could actually work in their favor by allowing for educational opportunities. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Catherine. Now, the meeting is tonight at 6 o'clock. It's at the Atrisco Heritage High School. It's now 6:37. Let's take a live look over Capitol Hill in Washington. We're hearing from the man who flew a gyrocopter onto the lawn of the Capitol building, forcing a lockdown there.
And Doug Hughes says he gave officials plenty of notice before his flight. He says he emailed information to the president's website that he was coming an hour before he took off. When asked why he didn't call 911, this is what he had to say.
A simple call to 911 that I'm flying in would not have had any credibility. I think they would have said, yeah, right.
So Hughes now faces up to 4 years in prison as a possibility for what he did. And when asked if it was worth the risk, he says he doesn't know yet. Hughes says he did it to highlight corruption in Congress, and he's now under house arrest awaiting trial.
New this morning, we're hearing from the officer involved in this, using his cruiser to stop an armed suspect.
And on the police inquiry tapes just released, Officer Michael Rapishko says he knew they were facing a very dangerous situation after hearing a call about a gun theft at Walmart, and then shortly after, the suspect on foot firing a shot into the air.
I have two thoughts that go in my mind. I need to shoot him to stop the threat, or I need to run him over to stop the threat.
But the officer didn't feel comfortable firing a 50-yard shot at the suspect with so many people around, so that's when he says he put his vehicle into action. Rapishko is not facing criminal charges, but he could still face a lawsuit from the man he hit. Federal officials say they will be reviewing a sudden violent confrontation between a California woman and a deputy U.S. Marshal.
Yeah, take a look at this. The attack, it was all caught on cell phone video. Shows a deputy snatching the woman's phone, then slamming it to the ground. It happened on Sunday during a multi-agency surveillance operation involving a biker gang. Beatrice Baiz says her constitutional rights were violated. U.S. Marshals are now investigating all of this.